Well, hello everyone. I do hope you can see me. My name is Joy Langley, and today I'm going to be talking about how to journal for greater emotional intelligence. But it's also to do with improving your self-awareness. So I do hope I'm up and running. I'm just going to quickly check and see if there's anyone in the chat that can tell me whether this is happening or not, whether you can see me. I sure hope you can do. And today's session, as I said, is going to be about journaling. And I wanted to double check to make sure that you could see me and you could hear me. Let's think if I can go and be very clever and just double check on LinkedIn to see if that's happening. Let's have a quick check. That might give me a little bit of a clue as well. So hopefully that's up and running. Great stuff. Good. Okay, everyone. So this is the first time that I've done a live in quite some time, and I'm getting some feedback that I can be heard. So thank you so much, Adrian, for that. Much appreciated. I haven't done a LinkedIn live for a while, and Debs, nice to see you too. Haven't done a LinkedIn live for a while. I've been doing a lot of audio rooms, so this is a really different experience for me. And it's lovely to see you all and that you're all joining me. That's really comforting, because sometimes I think I'm just going to be by myself. That's what I think. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Today I've got good company, and Larry, I'm glad I made you laugh. Yes, I made myself laugh as well, Larry. That can't be bad, can it? So yeah, I shall stop rambling and proceed with things. So I want to talk about journaling and why is it important? Do you do it? Don't you do it? Last week, I actually put out a quick survey on LinkedIn and I had 40 responses. Do you journal? And I think it was about 60% that said yes. Just want to double check. Around 60% said yes, and just under 40% said no. So it's interesting about who journals and who doesn't. Do you have to do it? Is it necessary? Well, it depends. I think journaling is all about giving yourself a chance to work out who you are and understand more about how you tick. And we can't do that when we're surrounded by the noise that goes on in life and people around us. We need to sometimes just take ourselves away, give ourselves the space so that we can actually think about who we are. But before I go into that, as I said, my name's Joy Langley. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and I'm also a therapist. And I spent 18 years working with clients in all kinds of ways. And I've more recently started working with business owners. So about 3 years in that space working with business owners, because I think that a strong mind does build a strong business. And from my own perspective, I know that I've had my own demons to deal with. Emotions, just because I am a therapist and a coach, it doesn't mean that I don't have issues with emotions, because I'm human. So emotions come and they go, and they can actually be quite destructive. And that's when I turn to my journal. So I know that I keep a lot of journals. I've kept a lot of journals over my lifetime. I brought 3 into the studio today just for you to have a look at, just to show that it's true. These are some of my journals, 3 of my journals. And I've got a lot more. And we have different ways of writing, different ways of journaling, but looking at who you are is really what it's all about. How do I think? How do I feel? How do I behave? So that when you're around other people, you actually can have that kind of self-regulation. You can manage what's happening for you. And if we're then going to be tapping into this big thing called empathy, that can be at play as well. And we can begin to predict and hopefully understand what other people might be feeling and thinking too, so that we can have good relationships. So this is all about self-awareness. And if you're aware of the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence, we've got the self-awareness, followed by self-regulation, then followed by motivation, and then empathy, and then the social skills. So if you're covering those 5 bases, then you're going to have much better relationships. I'm starting at the top of the tree. I want to look at self-awareness because I think that's where it has to start. Where else could it start? There are lots of ways of us finding out about ourselves. Of course, we can find out through other people and just being in a relationship and having repetitive patterns, whether they're good or they're bad. And then we can find out in the privacy of our own space about who we are by asking ourselves sometimes quite simple questions, sometimes quite tough questions. So I'm going to be going through how we can do that. But at the top of the tree, I want to introduce you to me, and then we'll be going on to the different types of journals that you can keep, then what that involves, and then some tips at the end. So I hope that makes sense. And then I keep trying to do two things at once. Shouldn't do that. Get distracted. As you can see, when you get distracted, it doesn't work. The brain only stays in one place. So that's my little tip. If I were writing my journal back today, I'd say, well, Joy, pay attention. Don't get distracted. When you get distracted, you really can't function very well. So that would be one of my end tips for myself. Right, guys. So just going to check if I'm on cue with all of this. So when I started my therapeutic journey, when I decided to even learn about all of this quite a few years ago, I've been 18 years at least in this space. I didn't understand why I had to know so much about me. I thought I meant to be understanding about you and learning about you, but my training was all about me. And I found that really, really strange because it's quite difficult to, that word introspective, to be self-reflective, to look at who you are and why you behave the way that you do. And I have to admit that in my 20s, I spent so much time just trying to avoid that. I really, really tried to avoid it. I spent so much time by myself, but also I wanted to, let me get this straight. I now am multitasking, so that's why I'm getting myself confused. Right, guys, let me start again then. When I was younger, I spent a lot of time wanting to think about myself, but then I didn't. I found it really, really hard. I was a bit of a party girl, and I just go out and just enjoy myself and then come back and try and sit with that space, that peace and quiet, and be with me. But I found that hard. In my 20s, I decided to start journaling because I experienced a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety during my 20s. And I thought, wow, how am I going to solve this? How am I going to find my way out of this? Because I know that when we're in that dark space, a lot of things happen. So I started to say, well, let's just log what's going on for yourself, Joy. Just log what's going on for yourself. And I started buying a lot of self-help books too. So the self-help industry really, really came onto the radar for me, and it helped. I began to sit down. I was a lot quieter with myself, and I thought through things. So I know that self-awareness and writing a journal is about giving yourself that opportunity to have I call it a helicopter view of you. If you got in a helicopter and stood above yourself, over your head, you'd be observing yourself, what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're doing. And why does that matter? Because you are probably going to encounter some other human beings. Okay, simple as that. Now, I brought two props with me to try and help to explain this. Now, what I've got here are, I hope you can see that, guys. Yes, two lemons. Two lemons. One of them is slightly bigger than the other, but they're two lemons. And what I wanted to say was that when we're around other human beings, that's what it's like. We're both human beings, but we're both different. Unfortunately, we meet other people and we think they're just like us, but they're not. And that's where the problem happens. So we can't expect other people to understand who we are. We have to understand who we are first, and then we can have better relationships. So think about that whole principle of the lemons. You meet people, and you're either going to rely on people to tell you who you are, which can be quite a dangerous thing because we're very susceptible to being told who we are, very, very easily done, that we can have these messages implanted in us, or we can begin to do our own work. Now, the work that you're going to do is around keeping track of your emotions, your thoughts, your actions, and any other prompts that you want to do as well, so you can begin to see the changes. And then when you meet other people, you begin to recognize what patterns you are having, and when these patterns are being triggered. So I do hope that's making sense, guys. I can see some of the comments, so lots of people join. Oh, thank you, Sard. Sard said, nice lemons, Joy. Thank you. Made me smile. That can't be a bad thing. So yeah, when we're with other people, they will obviously always tell us who we are. Since we were like this high, 3 foot tall, people have been telling us who we are. And I think as you get to your adulthood, you owe it to yourself to work out if you really are those things. Because if we've had loving parents, great, we're probably going to turn out reasonably balanced. But if we've had a very difficult childhood, it can give us lots of thoughts about ourselves, which may not be useful. So journaling is your way in to now in your adulthood to being who you want to be. And the ways in which you can do that, as I said, I'm going to show you the different ways. And I've shown you my journals. That was physical journal. You can also get into doing art. You can use artwork to try and work out who you are, what you're being in that moment, if you enjoy art. You might also just enjoy getting out a voice, use your phone and actually just record it. So an actual message on your voice. You could do that, a voice message. But writing has been proven to be a very, very good way to slow the brain down. It slows your thinking down, which is great, but also it activates different parts of your brain. We've got this part in our brain called the reticular activating center. So a very long word for something in our brain that just spots things. It notices things. And it's at the base of our skull. So it's just behind at the back here. And it notices things. And when you start writing, it's noticing that you're writing and it's paying attention, actually just paying attention to what you're writing to. If you start typing, you're not using that part of your brain as much. Okay. So with the writing and the eyes, the eye to hand coordination, there is a great thing happening in our brain which stimulates our learning center. And if you were to take an MRI, which shows the way in which the brain lights up and the bits that are activated, you'll see that more parts of your brain are being stimulated when you're writing by hand. So it's probably true, guys. I know it's not very fashionable nowadays to get pen and paper out, but grab yourself a pen and some paper and write thoughts down. So if you're enjoying this, guys, I'm sure there are ways that you can share this room. There may be some dots at the top of the box. I'm trying to work out where I am on this particular live screen as opposed to the audio rooms. But if you're enjoying this and you think other people might benefit from hearing, how do you actually journal? Is there a point to it? What's the benefit to it? Please share the room with them. I would love more people to join me. And also, I'm going to be giving you a list at the end that teaches you about 16 or 15 ideas that you can at least follow through in terms of how should I start journaling if you don't journal. And if you do, there's some other ways in which you can perhaps improve how you do that. So yes, when I was younger, as I said, I got into journaling and it was a revelation to me, the things that I wrote down about myself. There can be a little bit of fear around writing things down about yourself. And I would encourage you to, if you're writing very personal things, to keep your information in a confidential space. I had a diary. So back in the day, it's called journals now, but back in the day when I was younger, it was called a diary. And I had a very small diary when I was about 8 years old, and it had a little lock on it. And I would write lots of private things in there, really, really important things for an 8-year-old, like, oh, today I stroked the rabbit in the garden, or today my best friend's not talking to me. Really, really life shaking things, as you can see, for an 8-year-old. Fast forward, running a business, there's lots of things that happen to me which are business and some of them are personal. And I will track both of them. What I do on a personal level is I have a journal, which is just a notebook, and I will just write. Now, I've gotten a lot better at just writing without any prompts. So the 3 ways in which you could start to note, what's happening for you emotionally, also your thoughts, also your behaviors, tracking that. the best way to do that is just to get yourself a good old plain notebook. Perhaps an A4 size would be good. That's a good size to get. And start small, you know, just write your name on the front cover. That's what I used to do. Getting people saying they're really into journaling. So Kwame, thank you so much. And Kwame, thank you for saying that you're enjoying the articulation on that. You know, I would call it, I'm stumbling a bit, but thank you for saying I'm articulating, Kwame. I really appreciate that too. So yeah, I would get the diary out. So your new A4 notebook. It can be a spiral bound notepad, as you say, or it can be something special that you get off, you go out and buy it. I was going to say Amazon, but okay, I've said it now. Get it from any good bookstore, any good stationers, and just start writing. So your way into it is because you need to remember, why am I doing this? Everything in life, everything that I do, the reason why I procrastinate is because I don't always have a good reason for doing things. But I want you to notice that if you start beginning to analyze what's happening for you, it's no different to what you do in your work life. You're always being asked to gather data. If you're trying to do something, it's prove it. Prove it. So I want you to notice that if you start gathering information about yourself, you'll begin to notice the patterns that are happening in your life. And we do get into patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving without realizing it. And we get, as they say, the results as a basis of that. Now, if you're getting results in life that you're not particularly happy about, and you do want to change them, journaling would be a very, very good way to do it. And I just want to say good morning to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, good to see you. Lovely to see you. So that would be a very, very good way to do it. And so you can have a very structured way of writing your journal, or you can have, as I said, the blank sheet of paper, which people might find quite daunting. And the last one is just a free writing form of keeping a journal. Now, I said go in with just some kind of, first of all, get yourself a notebook of some sort. You don't really want to have your bits of paper in different places. And if you do like to just use an A4 piece of paper, make sure you're keeping it in a lovely, file, arch leaf file, so that you can keep them together. You don't want to lose them, because what you want to do is gather the evidence, gather the data. Then after a couple of days or after 7 days, you might want to look back at it and see what's happening. Like I said, it's a bit, we talk about, you can't, if you're in the middle of a big forest and all you can see are the tree barks and you just lose yourself, you get disoriented. We say get a helicopter view. Go up in a helicopter and look over that forest, and it will give you a better view, a better perspective of where you are. And especially if you're trying to find your way through it, you begin to see where you might have started at and where you need to get to. So keeping a journal is about your journey. It's about your personal growth journey. I call it your emotional intelligence journey as well, because that's part of the self-awareness. But you need to know what's happening. How did it start? And how can I change it? So lovely. Leo's told me that the progression of one's healing. Thank you so much, Leo. Absolutely, the progression of your healing. People don't like that word healing. Some people do, some people don't. But I'm with Leo on this one. Healing is interesting because we have to remember that we are all carrying wounds from life. People have hurt us and we've made it mean something and we've buried it somewhere. And that then makes us behave in certain ways. So yeah, I agree with you on that one, Leo. Great, great, great point there. So you can either grab this bit of paper, as I said, and you can have a very structured way of writing. Now, from my perspective, when I'm working with clients, and it depends on what category of client I'm working with, I'll use different journal prompts and different sheets. But I'll show you something which I do use, simply because I'm not good at screen saving at the moment, guys. Have to bear with me. But you might be able to see that sheet. It's got a lot of columns, as you can see in there. And those columns are so that you can observe what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and what you're doing. And I would say sometimes things trigger things. You come in with what situation created it. So let's use today, because this is a LinkedIn live for me, which is completely new to me. Haven't done it for the longest amount of time. I've been doing audio rooms, and this is new to me. So I would put down the situation is, it's a new experience, Joy, LinkedIn Live. And I would say, Joy, okay, so what were you thinking? Well, I was thinking that I haven't done this before. Am I going to be any good at it? And I might write that down in one of the columns. And I might think, oh, okay, Joy, the next column is, what will you feel then, Joy? What are you feeling right now? Because you're now having that particular thought. And I'm saying, well, I was feeling particularly nervous before I got on. So I'd write in, I feel nervous. And then it might at the end be, what do you feel like doing? What's the actions you want to take? Or what are the consequences of that whole thing running? So the actions that I could take is, I could just decide not to go on. Simple as that. Or I could decide to, as human beings do, we escape things and we avoid things. It's a very, very normal reaction. Okay, so I'd write down, I feel like escaping and I feel like avoiding. And then at the end, I could say, well, what's the consequence then, Joy, of you thinking that way, feeling that way, and behaving that way constantly, a constant loop? The truth is, you guys would miss out on the information that I have to share, and I would miss out on your conversation too. Absolutely. So I would miss out on learning things in the chat. You guys have been really, really communicative. So thank you. I can see you all there. And yeah, I'd miss out on that. So if you want to change something, you do have to keep the data. You do have to track it in some way. And that is a very structured way of keeping it. Okay, and I know that probably coaches do the same. I know that therapists definitely do that. Structure can be a very useful thing, because if you're not good at writing all those prompts that I've just mentioned to you, they will enable you to just fill them in on a daily basis without thinking too much about them, without overthinking. Because the one thing that human beings are good at is overthinking. So I hope I'm not rambling on, guys, really and truly. And if you do want to get the information that I share in these LinkedIn Lives and also the audio room, please join my mailing list. Just go to my profile and hit my face, and you'll see the link underneath it. And you can just join, because I want to share the information that I don't share on LinkedIn. I know that I do newsletters and other things, and I do posts, but I can't share the things that I really do want to share, and especially the handouts that I like to give out and the PDF. So please remember to join the community as well. Right, let's get back to it. So you can have a structured way of writing. You can also have prompts. I've mentioned prompts quite a bit here. Now, those of you that are getting into Chat GTP and the other forms of artificial intelligence, I've been using one called Claude more recently, and there's one called Pi. So there's so many ways of, understanding what a prompt means. Basically, we are the ones that are prompting the machines, if that's what you've been using. And those of you that don't understand what I'm talking about, this is a way of gathering information in a more sort of interactive way. You ask a question and the machine gives an answer. So if you're going to write a journal and you're not very good at looking at a blank piece of paper, basically just get yourself some prompts. So some of the prompts that I've found, let's see if that's the right way to approach it. I've got some prompts here which I can try out. Let's have a quick look. So you might want to decide that you're going to track your gratitude. So it might be 3 things that I'm grateful for today. So you might call it your gratitude journal. But like I said, my journal is a mix of different things. If you want to be very specific, yes, you can have just a gratitude journal. Or you can begin to look at my own self-awareness journey. And you could say, I want to look at my values, or I want to look at my goals. So it might be values that I hold dearly, and you might be tracking those through the week. So mine are around, I suppose, honesty and truth. I'm also about curiosity, and I really do enjoy talking to people. So it's about social interaction. So these are the things that I really, really value. If I wanted to track those over the week on a daily basis, every evening, so you can Write it in the morning or write it in the evening, but try and get into a pattern so that you can form that habit and you can be consistent. So consistency is important when you're gathering data. Otherwise, you'll have nothing to review. So I would track that either first thing in the morning if I wanted to. I would prefer to do it at the end of the day. And then I can work out, did I meet any of these criteria, any of these values that I hold dearly to myself? So that could be a way into it. You can also just use it, as I said, as a way of rating your emotions. Call it your emotional thermometer. Uh, did I was I happy today? Was I sad today? Did I get angry today? Um, and I said, when you have these little prompts, it's there just to start your brain thinking. You can write as much as you want. If you're a good novelist and a good writer, you might want to write a couple of pages, seriously. How I felt, who was there, what I did, what I thought. This is again a way of tracking what's going on for you. So if you're getting into the business side of it, it's going to be the goal setting, isn't it? It might be, how did I do at work today? Did I meet my targets? Did I contribute to the meetings well? Did I mix with people well? All you can have your own personal goals. So I've got a question here from someone. Yes, Leo's asked me your thoughts on I think it's taping while journaling or tapping while journaling to help you get through stuff. I think that's tapping that Leo said. So Leo's probably talking about, and I hope I'm correct here, Leo, about EFT, which can stand for different things, but in this case, it stands for emotional freedom technique. And it's where we're using all the acupressure points on our body to kind of stimulate what's happening to us. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, acupressure points are obviously Chinese medicine, and there are places on the temples, under the eyes, just beside our mouth, on our shoulder blades, on I think it's this point of our hand that we can tap. I'm getting some good feedback from Leo. He says yes. Thank you, Leo. At least I'm on the right track. That's good. And yes, I think that, you know, the acupressure points are a way of I think opening up your mind and getting things to flow around your body properly. And if you're following it through in a very systematic way, it changes the way that you feel about things too, which is good. So by all means, if that works for you, use that. I just want you to notice how ways in which you're going to encourage yourself to keep track of things. Like I said, you have to want to do it in the first place, okay? And the reason why you want to do it is that you want to understand yourself first and foremost, so that you can understand other people. And dare I bring the lemons on again? Why not? Okay. So these two lemons, guys, they look the same, one slightly smaller than the other. It's a bit like human beings. This lemon interacts with this lemon, but they're going to have very, very different conversations simply because they're not the same. We're all unique individuals, so we're not the same. So tracking how you are gives you more control over what's happening for you when you meet people. And you actually are very, very conscious of when your triggers are being hit, because you'll get a sensation in your body. That's another thing in which you could track is your bodily sensations. How do you react when you're around people? So if I'm nervous, I'll know that I'll probably start sweating. I'll know that if I was sitting down, perhaps my leg starts twitching. So and then my stomach might start rumbling. So there's lots of different ways that you know what's happening to you, and you can begin to keep a track of those too. So I've gone through the structured way of using it. I've gone through the place of just having prompts, which is good. And prompts are just a way into the conversation because we all find it hard to get things started. You're not the only one, guys. And if you physically write books and you write content, you know that staring at a blank sheet of paper can be the toughest thing today to do. I know that with the chat GTP prompts and other, artificial intelligence prompts, it gives us a bit of a starter. It gives us a way into things. But if you're starting from scratch, yeah, you don't know how to get going. So that's the way with the blank piece of paper. And the third part, so structured, a piece of paper, and then the last part is just free writing, guys. So If you are enjoying, as I said, what we're talking about today, like I said, I'm going to get better at doing these rooms. I know I will. And that's confidence for you, isn't it? But if you're enjoying what I'm saying here and you want other people to perhaps begin to know what is journaling, how do you get into it, please share this room. I'll have to try and find out when I'm in the audience next time how that's done. There's probably some dots here so you can share it back with your friends in LinkedIn. So that's all I can say for now, guys. I'm going to have to get this sorted out properly, but share the room if you're enjoying it. And this is also something which you think is valuable to other people. And do remember to join my community because I want to share, as I said, some of the PDFs that I've got. I don't necessarily do it on LinkedIn, but I do it away from the platform. And if you look at my face, my actual profile, underneath there, there's a link and that will take you off. And also, if you look at my other profile, the carousel profile that's there, you'll find a way of joining the mailing list too. And as I said, it's a way of just getting information that I don't share anywhere else. So I'm getting towards the end of those 3 sections that you can do. The free writing. Now, free writing is really, really interesting. You're thinking, what on earth is free writing? People are saying it's lovely to hear and see me this morning. So thank you so much too, because in the audio rooms, it's a really different experience, isn't it? I know you can hear me, but you can't see me. So seeing me is an interesting thing. I can only see you guys. I can see your faces, and I can see the faces now at the moment down the side. It's very, very, it feels like I'm in good company today. So thank you for that. Now back to the free writing. With free writing, again, this does involve getting a blank sheet of paper. And this is a way of helping you to start, I suppose, triggering more unconscious thoughts. So right now, me and you, it's conscious. I'm talking, you're hearing what I'm saying. And if we want to interact, we're looking at the chat box over there. That's conscious, that's happening right now. If we wanted to trigger more of the background stuff that's going on in our minds, which we're not tracking all the time, free writing is an interesting way to get into it. Because what you do, grab your piece of paper and you just start writing. And the aim is to have 1 page at least full. If you're getting really smart, you get 2 pages that you can just fill. And you don't have to write anything that makes sense. You can start off by writing, I don't know what to write. Joy's asked me to keep this journal and I haven't got a clue what she's talking about. I wish she'd explain. So you can start off just by doing that, just by virtue of getting yourself to kickstart the whole process. So you get your pen, get your paper, and you start free writing. And as you keep writing without thinking too much, you'll find that you'll start thinking obviously about your day or people or the things that are on your mind. It just naturally happens because you're tapping into that. It's our stream of consciousness. So it's a stream which we don't always swim in. It's happening all the time. But when we start free writing, we start to dip into it. It's a very interesting process. And if you get stuck at any point, you just say, I'm stuck at the moment. I'm stuck. Not sure what to say. Not sure what to say. And even if you covered a couple of lines saying that, don't be embarrassed. Don't worry. That's fine because your brain will start kicking in with other thoughts. Remember, I do say that your brain it's always listening and it never stops thinking. So you will definitely be able to go into that stream. And I call it go fishing, basically. Pull another thought out and look at it. And thank you so much, Leo. He says, yes, changing the dialogue from trigger to prompts. It's also a good way to look at it. And yes, and it's nice to learn new terminology. I'm learning a lot from you, Leo. So thank you very much for sharing that. Really, really do appreciate it. So yes, gone through the 3 sort of structured, written, blank sheet of paper, and then also just that free-flowing, free writing place that you can be in. Those are the 3 ways into it. Make sure that you get yourself a notebook, a notepad that you write in all of the time. That's all you're going to use it for. It's a dedicated book that you're going to use. If it's going to be really private information, make sure that you keep it in a safe space. Even though I love my partner dearly, I don't think he knows where my diaries are. I don't think he's that interested either because I've left it out by mistake and I don't think he's read anything. So We always think people are more interested in us than we think. But if there is private stuff in there that you don't want to share, then make sure you keep it in a safe place. That might be the way to go. And sometimes, if information is that sort of personal and that painful, it's good to get that information out. It's better out than in, you know. It's better that we express what's going on for us than keeping it to ourselves. But if it's very personal and it's something which you don't want anybody else to come across, then feel free to tear that paper up or to burn it. And that's another part of this whole cathartic process. And it's an emotional like release that happens from writing, but also there's an emotional release from writing and tearing up that bit of paper, sometimes burning it. I don't know what it does to you mentally, but it's a freedom thing. It makes you feel as though your mind is getting rid of something. So that's another thing that you can try. So those are the three things I wanted to definitely cover today. And I want to talk about now just the reminders, I suppose, some structured ways of getting back into journaling. So I hope that's making sense. Susan, thank you so much. I'm glad that you're enjoying those ideas too, because this is new to me, this live thing, and I'm thinking, yay, Joy, you can do it. There's a lot going on in human beings. I was going to say I feel very confident that I can do this, and I'll tell you why I feel confident, because I've been doing LinkedIn live interviews more recently, done about 7, so I should get better with time. I do remember being very nervous at the beginning, but a lot better towards the end. So if I were keeping a diary, as I said, tonight, I would put down LinkedIn live and thoughts, feelings, what did I do? I might put down, well, I thought I was going to be nervous, but in the end I wasn't. And thought might be because I've done this before. The emotions might be going from nervousness to being actually quite relaxed and quite open and quite curious and excited. I would even bring the word excited into that. Behaviors might go from, well, at first, I didn't want to turn up because I haven't done this live thing before. And then at the end, it would be, but no, I stayed and I got comfortable and I sat with that discomfort, sat with some of the internal feelings that we get, because the body is always going into that stress place, remember? If you remember hearing other things that I've spoken about around stress, when the body gets stressed, we've got lots of bodily signals that let us know that that's happening, recognizing what they are. And that would be today. And I would date it and then put that away. And it might just be half a page. It might be just a couple of lines. There is no right way and there is no wrong way. This is not like being at school where the teacher's going to come around and mark your work and give you a D minus. I was so used to getting A's, but if I got a B, I was really upset. So if I got a B, I wouldn't be happy. But this is not about being perfect. This is about progress, as you know. So perfectionism is not where this whole journal writing is about. So I hope that's making sense. So what I will do is, I think I've got some prompts here, some more prompts that I can just talk about. And forgive me for looking at my, my little prompts here myself to remind me, because I want to make sure that I'm keeping on track and that, of course, I'm saying everything that I need to do. So here's a list of different prompt ideas that you could have to keep in your own personal journal. And remember, it's about what do you want to track? Okay, that's important. Sometimes it might be you don't need to be in that place where you're measuring things. That's fine. That's a bit like the free writing stuff, isn't it? You're just writing. But really, the restrictions, we don't want to keep our brain in that, I suppose, rational space all of the time. That's why the more that we write in that free writing kind of way, the greater depths that we can go to, the more that we pull up about ourselves. It is actually a very interesting process. So you can have a focus on gratitude here. You can have a focus on the goals that you're going to set. You might decide you're going to focus on relationships. There might be someone you're going to have as the center of, is this relationship improving? Have we made strides? For me, with my partner, I don't argue with him every day, but we certainly have disagreements. And it might be, have we disagreed today? How did we resolve it? So I can notice whether we're getting better at resolving things. Some people track their dreams. I've got down here dreams and ambitions. That's a nice one to track because a dream diary is interesting. Some people don't remember their dreams. Some people remember them really, really well. Okay. If you like keeping a dream diary, then keep one. And dreams are very interesting to monitor. They say that it is a reflection of what's going on in our day, manifesting itself at night, and the brain is trying to find solutions. And we call it closing the loop. So if it were a circle that wasn't quite finished, your brain's going to do that last bit while you're sleeping to try and find a solution and close the circle. And that's so that you can enter the next day with a fresh thought and a fresh mind and be in a fresh place. So dreaming is interesting. You got me going now, and there are lots of books on dreams. So it says a dream journal here. You might have one where you're just looking at your achievements. Yeah, achievements are good. How did I do today? What was I trying to achieve? Did I achieve it? Very simple things. So I want you to know that journaling is something which you will get better at. It's a lifelong thing. You saw 3 of my journals at the beginning. I'm not embarrassed to even, I was going to read something from my journal because I'm just going to find a place in this journal so you can just see that we don't have to do it every single day, but I've come back to it. Someone said that dreams are really interesting. That's interesting. Absolutely, I agree with you. I find dreams fascinating. And Leo's also added that dreams, hopes, and possibilities. Now, those are great prompts, Leo. Dreams, hopes, and possibilities. Every day, imagine if you were tracking that. And if you're not necessarily keeping track of your physical dreams, it might be the dreams, your aspirations in life, and the hopes that you have. That's a beautiful thing to know. I hope that this happens, and possibilities. So they're all in that space of creating something new for tomorrow. It's very much about the future. I love that, Leah. That's great. And yes, my diaries, which are basically journals, which are basically lots and lots of notepads here, as I've shown you already, getting myself into a muddle. But yeah, that's really what I've done. And I think I'd looked through one of them. This one is from 2013. Can you believe it? 2013. Well, that's 10 years old. Can't believe it. And I did sort of like just dog ear a page, just so you can see. You can actually have a look at how I write. I write really large handwriting. Don't know if you can see that, guys, but it's quite big, quite spaced out. Some of my other, notepads and my other journals, I've got imagery because I quite like images. It's not always about words. It can be about using images that mean something to you. I think I draw in a really childish way, but it's fun. I've drawn a picture of a sun here and some clouds, and I've put down thoughts are like clouds here, which is nice. And I said, your life is like art. Get a blank canvas and paint on it every day. So I put down some really strange things, I suppose. So journaling is not, there is no stereotypical way of writing it. Just remember that this is about you. This is about you understanding more about yourself and how you achieve that, as I said, whether it's through writing, whether it's through, getting out your phone and just recording your voice, or if you like art, capturing images. This is all about you guys, okay? So, as I said, do remember to DM me if you want to get this PDF through as well. Just DM me the initials E and I will know what that's, pardon me, I'll know what that's all about. So DM me and I can get that through to you. Join the mailing list. That's another way of getting this, because I'm going to be writing this all back so that I can send it out to you as well. Join the mailing list and you can get that too. And yeah, join the Emotional Intelligence Mastery community. Improve your own desire to understand yourself. There's so much good research out there showing that the best leaders, the best managers are the ones that are really self-aware. And it doesn't surprise me because if they're self-aware, they're going to have really good relationships with other people. They just are. And have you ever met someone who just makes you feel good? I know that people say I make them feel good, but you haven't met me in real life. You know, virtually, yes, I'm glad that I make you feel good. But in real life, when you meet people, there are some people who just make you feel good. You don't know how they do it, you don't know why they're doing it. But I would say to you, the secret to their magic is that they're emotionally aware and they're emotionally intelligent. So we're looking at those 5 pillars. We're looking at the self-awareness, self-regulation, which is how do we monitor those emotions? How do we label them? What do we do with them? And then we're looking at motivation. How do we motivate ourselves? The empathy, how are we drawing on that superpower? Because human beings can actually, I would say, read one another's emotions. We have mirror neurons in our brain, which is an interesting word. And that's why we feel like we're copying people sometimes. We end up copying people's emotions. If they're happy, super happy, we get excited. If they're super miserable, we can get super miserable too. But what we're doing is we are mirroring what we see. So this is a way of you understanding you so that when you're with people, you can have better relationships. So I hope that's making sense, guys. And yeah, someone's just said that they were in touch with a friend recently and they had a dream about them. And so it's quite interesting that I mentioned that today. Yay! Great. And also another person, Susan, saying spontaneous acts of kindness. Wow. Yeah, that would be a great prompt to have anywhere, any time of day. You know, spontaneous acts of kindness because we are surrounded by other people and it's about relationships. It has to be. I was reading a really big fat book called The Laws of Human Nature by, I think it's something, I've forgotten the first name, but his surname is Greene. I should remember his name properly. But it's a very, very big book and it's The Laws of Human Nature. Now, if you guys picked that, I think it's Robert, coming back to me slowly, I think it's Robert Greene. If you started reading that book, you would learn so much about human nature. You'd be shocked. Okay. It's got like 500 pages and it's like a doorstop, this book, but you would enjoy it. And I'm reading it so slowly and I'm really savoring it because even though I know stuff, you can never know enough. And people are always saying things in different ways. And I call it the penny drops or the dime drops. And yeah, it just makes sense to you. So before I end this, guys, I'm going to just quickly make sure that I've got the checklist, which you can get hold of. Just DM me the initials E and I, and I'll make sure you get that. This has got 15 items on it, just to remind us of the best way to journal to improve your emotional intelligence. And I'm really glad that you guys have stayed with me. It's been an interesting session today because I've not done this before and I didn't know how it would pan out, but I'm glad that the information is going across. Right. The first thing is to set a consistent time to journal. Now, that's an interesting one because I believe in if we get into habits and patterns, it makes life a lot easier. It's like if you like running, you might leave your track shoes by the door. As soon as you're about to go out, you remember, oh, track shoes. It encourages you to remember about your running. So, Stanley, I've got someone making me laugh here. Stanley, who I interviewed, by the way, last week, great interview, Stanley Greene. He says his nephew is called Robert Greene, but he doesn't think he's written that book. Stanley, you're probably right. Thank you for making me laugh. What can I say? That is just so funny. I'll just have to show you guys. You won't believe that that was up otherwise, will you? So that's Stanley Greene. Now, Stanley Greene is someone that you should definitely contact, okay? It was a good interview, all about business, all about really self-awareness. Me and Stanley are on that same kind of train, the self-awareness train, you know. So yes, I've gotten down to number 1. I didn't get very far. I've got 15 more to go. I better be quick, hey? And Leo's said this has been his favorite session of the week. Now, Leo, I don't have any money, Leo, but that was really kind of you. But Leo, thank you so much. I'll give you the fiver afterwards, you know. But yeah, this is a space where hopefully you can just think about stuff. So the other ways in which you can begin to get into journaling because it matters to you and because you want to have better relationships with other people is creating that calm space. Now, when I write, and even when I'm working, I don't like a lot of noise around me. Some people will insist on putting on music. Now, music distracts me, so it's not useful. I will dip into music independently to kind of calm me down, but not when I'm working. It doesn't seem to work for me. But find a good space, comfortable space, and relax, you know. Um, and pick, as I said, a format to save your information in that makes sense to you. I would encourage you to keep a paper format because, as I mentioned, the coordination between your eye and your hand stimulates that lovely part of your brain, and it helps with learning. Simple as that. Now, don't knock it, guys. I didn't invent it. That's like just fact. Okay. You don't need a journal that's dated. You can have one that's dated, but then it means that if you miss out a date, you feel guilty. So don't worry about the dates unless you're very much wanting to have dates there. You can fill the date in yourself. And I can go for sometimes a couple of days without writing, sometimes a week, and sometimes a month. But that's because I come back to it. As you can see, the journal I showed you earlier on was 2013. If anybody has a journal older than 2013, let me know. DM me. I think you might have won a prize there. So undated, and set a time. If you're really not sure how long you're going to write for, you want to write for, say I'll do it for 5 minutes. And if you're a beginner, say you'll do it for 2 minutes. Start small, get bigger. 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 10 minutes. You know, some days you'll have a lot to say, some days you won't. Okay. And remember, it's about capturing those thoughts. And I've got that stream of consciousness that's going. If we start tapping into that lower part of us, you'd be surprised at what comes out. And don't worry if some of it doesn't make sense. It's not about making things make sense, because the rational brain will always try and make things make sense. When you fish in the pool of your stream of consciousness, you'll be very impressed at what you pull out. And if you need prompts, remember, use those within your journal keeping. And if you get mind blocks or just, thought blocks, don't worry. Write down, not sure what to write now, not sure what to write now, not until something kicks in, okay? And be structured if you need to be structured. I told you what a structure looks like. It can be on a landscape bit of paper with columns, or it can be just an ordinary A4 sized bit of paper, just portrait wise with sections that you're going to write in. You do it in whatever way makes you feel good, and date your entries, as I said. Review your journal as often as you want to. I would encourage you to look back at the end of the week at least, and looking back at things that are a month old, you'd be shocked at how things hopefully have changed and how perhaps you're putting into place some of the findings that you've got, because everything that we do is a lesson. Everything we do, good and bad, there's a lesson in that. And that's why the journal is very interesting. And I want you to celebrate the wins that you have. Just celebrate. Say, yay, today I did a good thing. I started writing my journal. That might be the first page in your journal. If, as I said, the poll that I did on LinkedIn, where almost 60% of people were already keeping a journal and the remainder, the other 40% were not. If you want to start doing it, just because you want to know more about yourself so that you can have better relationships, and sometimes just break the patterns that we get into. We're not even aware of patterns until we write them down. So you can't create change until you actually collect the data. And I have quite a lot of coaches around me that I work with, and they say, collect the data, Joy, collect the data. They're absolutely right. Collect the data. You do have to do that for yourself. And last of all, I want you to stick with it. Stick with it. Don't give up. Like I said, if you start writing on one day and then the next day you miss it out, don't kick yourself or beat yourself up. The diary and your journal, whatever word you want to use, are ways of just getting to know you. And I don't think there's any time that we take out enough to pay attention to ourselves. How often do you sit down and think about you? And how often do you sit down and you're curious about yourself? So the space in your journal is about noticing stuff, and it's never about, a place to really have a go at yourself. You're not putting yourself down and calling yourself names, because that would be a very negative way to use a journal. And I don't want you to use the journal to be a place of punishment. It should be somewhere that you go to that feels good, somewhere that you go to that you know is generating information about you that you didn't know before. And also, you might begin to notice that you're handling situations better, because you can write down, didn't handle this situation well, I'll try it like this next time. That's it. That's all you have to do. So we're about 4 minutes away from the end of today's session. Really love the interaction from you guys. Want to thank you so much for doing that. And like I said, just going to put up ways in which you can contact me. So remember, guys, that if you want to get that PDF that I've got, just DM me the words EI, and I will definitely send that off to you. Also, please remember also to join the community. So I have the mailing list, and you can join the Emotional Intelligence Mastery community. So just click that link under my profile picture. Again, that will get you to it. And if you can't remember any of these details, just let me know. Just DM me, Joy, EI, and I'll get in touch with you so we can have a chat. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to all of you. I hope that I can contact you all with some information in the future about what's happening for the next live. Also, please feel free to connect with me. I will certainly be connecting with you. So that's probably it, guys. Remember why we journal. It's for your benefit. It's something which will enhance your life. I've been keeping a journal since 2000, and goodness me, that was 2013, the one that you saw, and that's already 10 years old, isn't it? And I know that even into my 20s, I've been keeping journals, especially when I was in an emotionally distraught place with depression and anxiety. It really helped me, and it made me fall into the world of self-help. So self-help then led to me becoming a therapist, becoming a coach, and now an emotional intelligence coach and therapist. I combine them all because I think they're all great skills. It's all about emotional intelligence. And like I said, I was very surprised when I did all my training way back that it was all about me. We had to keep a journal whether we liked it or not. So the practice again was reinforced then. So that's a really, really good way to learn about yourself. I'm about to go over. No, I'm not. I've got like 50 minutes, 50 seconds to 50 minutes, 50 seconds to go, guys. So thank you so much for joining me. Do let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to share on these lives. I'm going to remind you about the story about the two lemons, just in case you've forgotten. All human beings, we're all lemons, aren't we? Different types. But when two lemons get together, very, very different conversations. So how do we have conversations that benefit both parties and that it's a win-win-win? So I shall say goodbye, unless there's anything else you want to add to the conversation. I'll have a quick look and see if there's anything there. You're all saying thank you so much. That's so wonderful of you guys. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you. And you know what? I feel like I'm amongst family when I'm talking to you guys. So thank you for making me feel very comfortable and very, very relaxed. And we'll catch up next week. I'll be doing another one next week. I'll work out what topic I'm going to pick on. But again, something that I can share that has a bit of visuals. I may get better at using the screen share on this too. Who knows where it will go. Life is about learning. It's about growing. And I've certainly learned something today, and I hope you have too. So catch up with you all soon, and have a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, or a wonderful evening, wherever you all are. And thank you for saying thank you. everyone that said that in the comments. Catch up with you all soon. Bye for now.